Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel and welcome to the Modern Warfare Impressions video. Since I didn't do one of these back during the beta, this video has been a long time coming, but I want to stress right here at the very beginning of the video that these are impressions. This is in no way my final opinion of the game, but rather just some of my personal thoughts on the game so far after having played the beta and then transitioned into the full game. Now, some of you may be wondering, how am I already this level? How have I already been able to play the game early? Well, it turns out that for Xbox fans, if you wanted to play Modern Warfare before the 9 PM Eastern release time, you simply just needed to change your location on your Xbox to New Zealand and also change your time zone. Doing this would trick your console into thinking that the game was already out, and as a result, I'm already level 20 and I've logged about 4 hours into the game this afternoon. I don't think this trick works for PlayStation or PC, but regardless, it doesn't really matter anymore because by the time this video goes live, the game should be out in all time zones. So the big question I'm sure on everybody's mind right now is, does the game suck? How is Modern Warfare? Is it good? Is it bad? Is Modern Warfare better or worse than what we saw back during the beta? Well, the short answer is no, the game does not suck, at least in my own personal opinion, but it's not the greatest Call of Duty game that I've played either. The long answer is a bit more complex, which is why I'm going to be detailing all of my first impressions here in this video. So first things first, how does the game feel? You guys may remember hearing reports that the game had an absolutely horrendous netcode back during the beta, and I'm happy to report that this appears to have been addressed. The game, from a pure connectivity standpoint, feels really good. The hit detection is on point, the lag seems to be at a minimum, and gunfights seem to actually be gunfights instead of you just feeling like you got melted every single time you die. Now again, these are just impressions, and we're going to have to wait until Battle Nonsense publishes his video testing the netcode for the game, but so far, in my experience, the game feels so much better now that it's fully released as compared to what we saw back during the beta. Now don't get me wrong about the time to kill though. The time to kill in this game is still incredibly fast, especially when headshots are involved, and especially if you compare it to Black Ops 4, but it definitely does feel a lot more like the old Modern Warfare games did, at least in that respect, right? At least when it comes to time to kill and how you feel during your gunfights. On the flip side of things, however, I don't feel as though Modern Warfare really feels like a traditional Call of Duty game. With how the maps are designed and how the weapons perform, it honestly feels more like a Battlefield game than a Call of Duty, and I realize that we say this every year, right? When Black Ops 4 came out, we're all like, wow, this feels a lot more like Overwatch and Rainbow Six because it's got specialists and it's got a weird time to kill and it just feels so different. I get that we say that every year, but this game really does feel more like a Battlefield title than a Call of Duty title, and whether or not that is good, I think is really up in the air right now. I feel like we are at two extremes, right? If you go back to Black Ops 4, in my opinion, that was the ultimate arcadey style shooter, right? You were zipping around the map, you were mantling over things super fast, the time to kill was pretty slow, so you're manually healing yourself, and you could reload while you were sprinting. The game just was so fast, it was vibrant, it had this really arcadey style feel to it, right? And I think it's probably the best example of that design philosophy that we've seen in the series so far. On the flip side of things, however, we have another extreme. Modern Warfare is by far the slowest, most tactical focused Call of Duty game that we've ever had, right? This is due to a number of factors. We have slower sprinting than we're used to. Also, we have the ability to run faster for a short period of time, which is off-putting, but you kind of get used to it. We mantle a little bit slower, the maps are a little bit bigger, and there's also a lot more elevation in this game as compared to previous titles, and of course, there aren't really a lot of perks that you can use to help you pick up the pace, right? So it definitely feels a lot slower and a lot more tactical. There's also some attachments for each gun that can help you with that. They can make you feel like you're moving around a little bit faster while aiming down sights, but at the same time, if you want something as simple as a grip on your assault rifle or an extended mag on your submachine gun, you put that on your weapon knowing it's going to slow you down even more, and I think this creates a meta where rushing is almost punished outside of getting yourself from one position of advantage to another position of advantage. The end result is much slower gameplay than I think a lot of us are used to. You may be watching the gameplay here and be thinking, wow, Nero has barely moved whatsoever, but honestly guys, that's the game we're playing this year. If you move from your position of advantage, you're opening yourself up to get killed by some guy in a window or some person crouching around the corner, and suddenly you're dead, you're off that point, and their team takes that point, and now your team's at a disadvantage because you decided to rush. That's what I mean when I say I feel like you're punished for trying to rush around in this game. Going back to Black Ops 4, I keep using it as an example just because it's the most recent game, but even going back to games like Call of Duty 4 and Modern Warfare 2, I feel as though you could rush around pretty easily in those games without really putting yourself or your team at a big disadvantage. Well, in Modern Warfare, I feel like map control is way more important than raw gun skill or twitch reflexes or anything like that. I have plenty of examples of what I'm talking about, and I'll try to splice them into the video, but you're going to be seeing where the other team has full map control, and it almost feels like there's nothing you can do about it, right? Spawns are pretty much set in stone on a lot of the maps in this game and in a lot of the game modes, so you'll find yourself just spawning over and over and over in the exact same place with 6 guys on the other team already aiming down sights and waiting for you to make a move. Now the question is that a good design philosophy for a multiplayer game? Well, I think the answer is both yes and no. I know for some people, no doubt, this is the kind of slow-paced action that they were hoping for with this year's game. Some people say it's a lot like it was back in Modern Warfare 2 and Call of Duty 4, and I don't agree. I really don't agree. I don't even know. I have like 60-something days playtime in Modern Warfare 2, probably another 50 in Call of Duty 4, and I felt as though in those games, rushing was a viable playstyle, and map control, while it was a big deal, it wasn't the biggest thing ever, right? You could still carry your team by flanking and doing things like that. Well, here in Modern Warfare, it seems a lot more difficult to be able to pull that off, just because of how the maps are designed and how the weapons themselves are designed. When you're on the receiving end of this map control style playstyle, it's really not fun whatsoever, and almost feels like there's nothing you can really do to get out of that situation. But when your side has the map control, it feels really good because you are rewarded heavily for playing the objective and locking down the other team. Again, this does go back to that old school Call of Duty mentality of spawn trapping, right? Let's call it what it is. We're talking about spawn trapping here, and I think it's a core design philosophy of Modern Warfare, and I'm very interested to see how the game is going to play out going forward, knowing that the game is built this way, right? The game is designed for you to establish map control, go to these various positions of advantage throughout each map and hold them down and try to lock the enemy team back as far as you can. In a lot of ways, I feel as though this is going to really show who's good at rushing versus who's not good at rushing, because if you can succeed rushing in this game, which so far I cannot, but if you can do that, then you're going to have to be a much better player. Rushing is going to require much more skill in this game as compared to the previous Call of Duty titles, and I would love to hear what you guys think about that down there in the comments. Do you think this is a good design philosophy for the game? Leave your thoughts and feedback down there in the comments. But speaking of spawns, let's go ahead and talk about the multiplayer maps themselves. I'll try to keep this section somewhat brief because honestly, it's really hard to judge map quality when you don't have a lot of experience with them. Obviously, we played a couple of them during the beta, but there's a bunch of new maps here, and my initial impressions are that none of these maps really seem to wow me. They all just seem very mediocre, right? But at the same time, I'm still learning them. I'm learning flank routes and spawn areas and lines of sight and different ways to capture different objectives and hold down different objectives, so I'll reserve judgment until I've played each of the maps a bit more, but I will say I do find it strange that so many maps are game mode specific. There are maps that are designed specifically for 6v6, some are made for 10v10, some are made for 32v32, some are made for 2v2, the gunfight game mode, and I feel as though that does encourage the player base to get out of their comfort zone a bit more and try out different modes so they can experience more of what the game has to offer. But at the same time, if you're just somebody who wants to play Dom, like the old school Call of Duty, you just want to run around, capture flags, play domination, and enjoy yourself, there's a very limited number of maps in which you can actually do that, and I wonder, will the game get old for those players if they do not want to expand their horizons, if they don't want to move and try playing game modes like Headquarters, or even going to Team Deathmatch or Gunfight or things like that, because there's a limited number of maps in this game right now. More are coming, and they're all going to be free, and they're all coming to every platform at the same time, which is wonderful, but right now, at launch, there's not really a lot of map variety, especially if you're set in playing one particular game mode. So also, I would love to hear what you guys think about that down in the comments, but I'd also like to say, I like the night vision modes. Those are pretty freaking cool, right? If you go back to Black Ops 4, they would add these nighttime / weather variants of maps, which I enjoyed. It added a little bit of flavor to the multiplayer. Instead of playing on the same map over and over, you're now playing on the same map, but with a different time of day and a different weather pattern, and it added some variety, right? It wasn't the best thing ever, but they were free and it was fun. Well, here with Modern Warfare, the nighttime maps are completely different than the daytime maps because you're using night vision. You can't properly aim down sights with your gun. You're constantly looking for lasers because when you do aim down sights, that laser appears for everybody and the other team can see that there's someone down there waiting for them aiming down sights. It's pretty freaking cool. I didn't think I was going to like it all that much just watching like the previews and stuff like that they showed us leading up to the launch of the game, but I'm happy to say that the night vision modes are actually pretty freaking fun. I definitely do enjoy them, though sadly, they're not going to be around, at least for right now. When the game first was out early, and again, I played the game early today, when it first came out, night vision modes were just in every single playlist, essentially, but then they did an update before the game even went live, like 6 hours before the game is supposed to go live, and they took out all the night maps, and they're going to have their own separate playlist, I guess, in the future, so we'll have to wait and see how that goes, but yeah, once you can actually play the night vision modes, I think you're going to like them. It's a nice change of pace for the Call of Duty series, and it adds a ton of variety to the game, while at the same time, not just oversaturating us with a bunch of different kinds of maps. So I definitely think Infinity Ward hit the mark when they designed these nighttime maps for the Modern Warfare multiplayer. Moving along from maps, let's go ahead and talk about the weapons, because my freaking goodness, guys, they outdid themselves this year. They really freaking did. I've logged in a bunch of hours during the beta and even more here today with the full game, and I have a question for you. I have a serious question. Please answer this down there in the comments. What is the overpowered gun here in Modern Warfare? Now, I'm sure a bunch of you have an idea already, but for me personally, I have no freaking clue. Each weapon feels really good, and I'm not like running around and thinking, oh my gosh, of course they're running around with the, I don't know, the MP7 or something. That's the best gun in the game, the freaking MP7. I don't feel that way. Like, I feel as though every gun in this game is viable, at least as of right now. We'll see how it goes once people are leveling up their guns a bit more and getting more attachments and things like that, but so far, things feel really freaking good. Another awesome thing that they did is they added mission challenges to the game. Now, I should say, you have to activate these. You can't just do them all at once like the challenges in previous Call of Duty games. You have to pick one and then start working on them and work your way through it. But for doing some of these mission challenges, you're going to unlock weapon variants for guns that you may not even have access to yet. So for doing the boot camp challenges, you unlock an MP7 variant and it comes with its own attachments, right? Well, because you have that variant, you can now use the MP7. It's one of the last guns you actually unlock in the game, but if you get that variant, you can use it pretty much right away with those set attachments. Now, obviously, you can't level it up because you don't have it unlocked yet, but you already have some attachments, you have the gun, and I think that's a really cool feature. I'm definitely a big fan of that. I also really enjoy the customization and the important decisions that the attachment system provides. You guys may remember a couple of years ago when they first implemented the Pick 10 system to the Call of Duty series, I was all for it because what it did was it allowed you to really tailor your class to your particular playstyle and make some meaningful decisions, right? It's like, do I want to have a rocket launcher to shoot down UAVs, or do I want to get rid of that and have an extra attachment on my primary, or do I want to get rid of my frag and my stun so I could have 2 perk 3s or things like that? It added a lot of depth to the Call of Duty creative class, but I feel as though what we have here in Modern Warfare is almost like an extension of that, right? Because while yes, we still have a primary and we have a secondary and we have a set number of perks and things like that, the attachments themselves force you to make some really important decisions. If you want to have a holographic sight, which is really good in this game because a lot of the maps are really big and actually helps you out, if you want to have that, you go into it knowing that to get that holographic sight, you have to have slower aim down sight speeds. Like there's a pro and there's a con to virtually everything there, except for the perks, of course, right? The perks that you can put on your guns, I don't think any of them, maybe a couple, but they don't seem to have any negatives, but the attachments themselves, they give you a pro and they give you a con, and therefore you have to really think about every single attachment. You put a stock on your weapon, for example, and that's going to maybe make it so you move faster while aiming down sights. Well, then maybe take a different attachment on your grip that is going to make you move slower while aiming down sights, so it kind of counterbalances, so you basically have no negative while still having both of the positives for each one of those attachments. Like, there is a lot of decisions to be made with this system, and there are so many attachments for every single gun in the game that I think it's going to take a very very long time before we can figure out how we like to properly run our M4, for example. Back in the day, it was pretty simple. Back in Modern Warfare 2, red dot sight. It's all you needed, right? Put the red dot on there, you're ready to go. But here in Modern Warfare, it's not as simple. It's not as cut and dry, and I definitely like that. It's going to add a lot more replay value to the multiplayer, and I also like the camos, right? Just continuing on with the theme of the weapons here, I like the camo system because there's something like 100 different camos for each gun, and they're all broken up into different categories, which means that pretty much no matter what you're doing, you're always working towards more camos for your weapons instead of just the old mundane system of simply getting headshots. Headshots are part of it, don't get me wrong, but there's a bunch of other ones as well. You get camos for getting kills, you get camos for getting kills while crouched for some reason. Like, there's a bunch of different challenges in this game for a bunch of different camos, and I'm definitely a big fan of that. So far, I find that the weapons and the gunplay of Modern Warfare are above and beyond my favorite aspects of it. That, and I suppose the leveling. I discussed it in my previous video, but there's a new system where they essentially just front load you everything, and then instead of prestiging, you have officer ranks. What this means is once you get to level 50, your guns will permanently be unlocked for you forever, and you may think that's going to get boring, right? You may want to re-unlock your guns and do some things that way, but with how many levels there are for each weapon, and how many camos there are, and attachments to unlock, it's nice knowing that they're just going to be there forever for you after you hit rank 50, and from there, you can then focus on leveling up through the officer ranks every season. And of course, at the end of those seasons, all those rewards for getting through those ranks are going to go away, and then your officer rank is going to reset back to 1, and there's going to be a whole new set of challenges and rewards and things for you to get through. All the while, you're still working on all your guns, right? There are so many weapon levels and so many things to get for each individual weapon that I think there is going to be a lot to do here in this game. On top of that, speaking of things to do, and I know for a fact that this is a way bigger deal to me than it is probably for a lot of you guys, but combat records and leaderboards are here. I still have no freaking idea why Treyarch did not have these for Black Ops 4. It makes no sense whatsoever, but we have combat records, we have leaderboards here in Modern Warfare, and I definitely think that's a good thing. But ladies and gentlemen, I think that's pretty much going to do it. I'm trying to think if I forgot anything that I wanted to cover here in this video, but if I'm just focusing on multiplayer and not talking about Spec Ops or campaign whatsoever, I think that's pretty much it. I mean, the operators, I could talk about the operators. It's neat how you have to unlock them by doing different things within the game. It's actually like the specialists back in Black Ops 4's Blackout mode, where you have to do these very specific things to unlock specific characters. Well, it's pretty much the same thing here in this game, and there's 18 of them total, and probably more of them coming later on down the line. And it's kind of cool that to get one character, for example, you have to do a specific campaign mission, while for other characters, you have to play 25 public matches, or just little challenges like that. It just gives you so much to do. I talked about it in my previous video, but there is just... with the amount of challenges they have here in Modern Warfare, there is going to be a lot for us to do for a very long time. And with the idea that this game is going to be a seasonal game, in that every couple of months they're going to reset the season and then have a bunch of new challenges come along with a bunch of different rewards and things for you to do, on top of course, all the new weapons that are going to be added for free, as well as the new maps that are going to be added for free, I can see this potentially being a game that actually lasts the entire year, which can't be said for a lot of other Call of Duty games that have come out recently. You may remember Activision coming out and saying that Black Ops 4 was going to be a 3-year title, and turns out they lied about that. They're done with updates. That game is pretty much dead in the water as of right now. And even though they have not made the same comments about Modern Warfare, there's really nothing where they're saying it's going to be a multi-year game. But if they keep this up, I could see it actually being a multi-year game with these different seasons and all these different things for us to do. But of course, time will tell, I suppose. As of right now, these are just my first impressions after having played the game for a couple of hours, and I would love to hear what you guys think down there in the comments. As always, I will be with you every step of the way as the game grows and evolves over time, but I'm going to end off today's video by just simply passing the question off to you guys. What do you think of the Modern Warfare multiplayer so far? What do you think of the guns, the gun balance? What do you think of the maps, the spawn system, the unlock system, the rank up system? I covered all these things here in today's video, so I would love to hear what you guys think down there in the comment section below. But ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you guys all so much for listening. Thank you for taking time out of your day to check out this video. Be sure to hook it up with a like if you guys enjoyed, and I hope you guys all have a wonderful day.